After Hours.
On this episode of the History of the Corps After Hours podcast, we discuss the trio from Mukilteo, Washington, known as Fall of Troy. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at IsSurvivedByPro for news and the latest episode postings. And make sure to subscribe to the show, leave us a 5-star review, and write us a comment on YouTube or whatever podcast service you're using. Make sure to check us out on TikTok and give us a follow at IsSurvivedByProductions. And if you'd like to see us do some live streams, leave us a comment or tweet us the keyword stream. Now, without further ado, let's start the show.
The devil is in Atlanta, army surrounded.
Heyo! Welcome back to the History of the Corps After Hours podcast, where each and every episode I, Curtis, sit down with my good friend and avid listener of the History of the Corps podcast, Eric. What up?
We doing good today.
We doing good. We chugging along, getting some stuff done, being productive, being very, very, very productive. I got a band for you, Eric, that I'd throw your way, since you and I both like instrumental bands such as Strawberry Girls, We Lost the Sea, and so on and so forth. I found one the other day and it was actually pretty good. It's not as it's almost like a medium between Strawberry Girls and We Lost the Sea, whereas like We Lost the Sea is kind of like dramatic at times and Strawberry Girls just go so hard,
Right.
and very technical and everything. This band's like, they'd be like metalcore, but like minus a vocalist. There's a lot of like kind of breakdowns and stuff. It's a band called Medler. You ever heard of them?
I have not.
Yeah, check them out. I might send you the link too if you can't find them. But I listened to, I don't know if it was an EP or a full length, because it was only like 6 songs long. But anyway, yeah, go check them out, because I know, like I said, I know you and I both enjoy instrumental bands like that, and I was kind of pleasantly surprised. Medler.
Medler.
The album is from 2021. It's called Upsurge. You want me to send it to you?
Go ahead.
Okay,
I'll take it.
Send that to you. Don't mind us, people. We're just, doing random things during this episode.
Just enjoying some music.
Exactly.
That's
All
why
right.
you're all here.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you're here, right? To enjoy our conversations. All right, man. Today we are going to be talking about the band known as Fall of Troy, a trio band from, see if I can say this name right, Mukilteo, Washington. I'm actually pretty proud of myself that I did not struggle with that name. Mukilteo, Washington, the Fall of Troy. I guess I should have started with this question before we really got into Fall of Troy stuff, because it doesn't really have anything to do with Fall of Troy. And actually, we do this too on our show. We just did on this last episode. Eric, do you or do you not enjoy the times, as a listener, do you or do you not enjoy the times where me and Josh get way, 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 way off topic and start talking about other bands and albums that aren't even about the band the episode is about?
So I do like it most of the time. I like hearing about similar bands and stuff like that. Ones I might not know about. Spin-offs, things like that. It's gotten me into other bands, because every once in a while I listen and I go, I haven't heard of them. And I'll tippy-tappy away on the computer and find them. I go, that's not half bad. And if I can add a song or two to a playlist, it makes me a happy guy.
Okay, good. Just want to get a listener's opinion about that, because sometimes I wonder if people are just like, I can't follow these guys. They're too all over the place, Stick to the topic. I came here for Fall of Troy, not, politics. I don't know, whatever. Yeah, so anyway, I thought I'd just ask you that question, see what was up. All right, do you remember the first time that you heard Fall of Troy? Was it from me?
as a full album, like I don't think I've ever listened to them as a whole until like after getting ready for
Till
this.
this came, yeah.
I've heard a couple of songs for sure.
Okay.
I think there's one song in particular. I don't know if anybody has not heard at this point.
If you haven't, you live under a rock.
And I'm pretty sure they've
Off the
re-recorded it 4, 5, 6 times.
At least twice.
I mean, there's at least twice even on
Yeah.
Spotify, but they've got older stuff that I don't even know.
Yeah. This
So-
is a band that will record over and over and
They
over
do
and
a
over.
little bit, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I can't remember if I was the one that showed you this band or not back in the day. I feel like it was,
Could be.
because I can't remember when I first found out about them, and I learned them through Josh. I mean, that's how I learned a lot of bands back in the day. But I felt
Thanks,
like
Josh. We
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
you.
the Godfather of music. Thank you, Godfather. Yeah, I think I had got, or I think you had gotten it from me.
It's very
And
likely.
It was, let's see, was it Doppelganger? I think was the first one.
Oh,
I
that
really
sounds
heard.
about right.
Yeah, which I'm sure most people are like, yeah, Doppelganger's the one I heard too first. Okay, so first off, they're different from every other band out there because they're a trio, but they're very intricate in the way that their music is, especially musically. How would you describe Fall of Troy to a new listener, Eric? What are they getting into?
Man, it's hard to put these guys in a box.
Yeah.
They are a little different.
Yep.
So, like, musically, for their first, say, like, 3 albums, they're reminiscent of something like Dance Gavin Dance or, like, Strawberry Girls, somewhere in that range. Of course, we're not talking exact carbon copies.
Almost like kind of chaotic, but very structured at the same
Right.
time.
Almost a little math rocky at times. And then, yeah, I mean, there's just a cool sound that all of those 3 bands have that's similar in that first 3 albums of Fall of Troy.
Right.
And then vocally, at times, In the Unlikely Event is one album I wrote down. They kind of give me Ludo vibes, actually, with his vocals.
Okay.
And, I mean, just that's a little bit after he's growing a little bit as far as his vocals go. But like I said, it's hard to put them in a box. Like, are they punk? Are they math rock? Are they post-hardcore? And I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good way. Good way to start. I mean, it just the thing that always like I told Josh, as I said, the one thing that really draws me in obviously is their music. That's where I
Absolutely.
start. It's just insane to me, like especially just Thomas, their frontman, playing guitar and singing. Like his vocal range is insane.
Oh, yeah.
His screams are really good. And yet at the same time, he can just go like full blown, like all over the fretboard while doing all those things at the same time.
Like there's a couple songs I was like, I looked up some live
Oh,
sessions
yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
like that with him and a couple other bands, and like, holy crap, how does he sing and play that guitar? Like he's full on like solo sounding.
Yeah.
Like
it's
other bands
insane.
would be soloing and he's just playing part of the riff, and I'm like, and singing.
Yeah.
At the same time,
Yeah.
how does this man
That's just
function?
insane, dude.
It's-
He's very gifted, that's for sure.
Absolutely, like that.
Um,
When y'all, I didn't realize they were a 3-piece.
yeah.
Like when y'all said that for the first time, I was like, "You're messing with me." There is no
they
way,
are a 3-piece, man.
because
Oh, yeah.
there's no way that man doing that guitar sound is making that with his mouth.
Right.
Like at the same time,
Right.
No, but he's doing it live too. So and he's been doing it live since like 02 or 03.
Right. That kind of makes me think of a music teacher I had back in the day. We played some, I don't even remember who it was, but we played some like heavy stuff for him, and he couldn't wrap his brain around the fact that a human being was doing double pedal like as fast as whoever's
Oh,
band was.
yeah.
I mean, it was like going fast. He's like, no, that's a drum machine. It's like, no, that was a person actually recording it. No, it was a drum machine. But yeah, I mean, human beings, man,
Oh yeah.
we're pretty cool.
Oh
pretty
yeah.
amazing.
There was a live reaction, or not live, but a reaction video I watched here a while back of Ginger, the band.
Oh yeah.
And I think it was the Charismatic Voice. She was reacting to this band, and I guess she had said, "All right, guys, I hadn't listened to this yet, and here we go." And so she's doing her normal thing. She goes, "Oh yeah, her voice, this."
Is she like a vocal teacher?
Yeah, I think she's a
Okay.
vocal
I think I
teacher.
know you're
She's
talking
a
about
classical singer, that
Okay.
kind of thing. So
Okay.
she's very well trained. She knows what's going on in
Okay.
vocals and everything. And But then Ginger has this breakdown in Pisces, this song, and it goes from, you know, da la dee da to do do doom doom, you know, just absolute breakdown. And this is a normal human female, and this girl from the charismatic voice busts up laughing because she's like, I did not know the human female could make that sound.
Oh yeah.
Like you said, humans are so cool.
It's just, I mean, that's like interesting. Like, I listened to a couple of songs from The Anchor the other day.
Yes.
And just like her and even like Courtney LaPlante, you know, I mean, just sometimes like listening to some of those girls like do those like screams like that. It's just like, it is kind of weird. It's like, okay.
Right. And
I get taken back a little bit. Whoa.
Like I Wrestle a Bear once, and some of their stuff's like
that.
verging on death metal. And it's like, that's a lady?
Yeah.
Like,
You're
yeah,
not a lady. You're not acting like a lady.
Those vocal cords are, I mean, crazy the way they've turned it into a science to how to do harsh vocals, and it's amazing.
And we
talk about the beginning of Fall of Troy, we talk about the beginnings of like Silverstein, like y'all were talking about, and some of those others. What was it?
From First to Last,
how he blew out his throat. And I've heard that story since I was a wee little lad on my father's knee, you know, and you know, don't do that because you're gonna blow out your throat.
Yep.
Well, they figured out how to do it safely now that we've been doing it this long, and it's wild to me.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's not. I mean, I described it to Josh of like it just sounds like back in the day, those early 2000s, mid 2000s, or whatever. It was just everybody's just trying to scream as hard as they can. Who can make the most gnarly noise, you know, and not even care about your future, really. You're just living in the now. Yeah, it's pretty crazy how far they've come with, like, vocal teachers getting into the science and the study and, like, practice of, okay, if you want to scream right and not destroy your voice, you got to do it this way or that way or whatever. And have you watched any of those people like talk about?
A little bit.
It's interesting.
It is interesting.
Very interesting.
I never would have personally thought it, but I'm no vocal coach.
Well, and see, again, it's like we grew up in that era again where like you're talking about like the Sonny Moore and his incident, and then you know the rawness of Shane's screams from Silverstein.
Well, and another one that came to my mind was Seosin.
Their
early stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Senses Fail was another one. His early stuff was so raw.
Right. So we just grew up in that age of just like, that's just what it was. If you're going to do that, you knew the consequences.
And you're probably going to blow that throat out.
You're probably going to, man. Yeah.
But there's some of these guys, you know, like from First to Last.
Right.
I don't know that he can do that anymore.
I don't think
Shane has changed his style completely through the years. But I seen Senses Fail, probably a little over a year ago now. And his sound is still pretty spot on. I mean, his voice, don't get me wrong, from the first day, it has grown, but it's like, it's still him, you can tell.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it has grown, but it's still there.
Right.
It's not like falling off the side of the cliff.
Right.
It's not changing from, you know, post-hardcore like Shane did to kind of verging on metalcore.
Right.
But that's a topic for another day there.
Yeah. I also think of, like Josh Scoggin, I'm surprised he never blew out his throat for as raw
from the sound that he has. Absolutely.
Now I will say he doesn't do those harsh vocals like he used to anymore in his new band. He's more just kind of a singing type in 68. I mean, it's kind of hard to describe, but him and then Jeremy from Touche Amore. I remember watching interviews with him back in like Parting the Sea and like Is Survived By days, and he was just you could tell he was damaging his vocals so bad because he'd just be so raspy, and you know it's like, wow, dude, that's not good. But he doesn't sound like that anymore. Of course, he kind of changed up his vocal style just a little bit, and it's not as like gnarly and raw as it used to be back in the early days of Touche Amore. But yeah, some of these guys just get like in touch with these vocal, coaches, and they save their vocals in time, fortunately. But yeah, it's very interesting to see those coaches talk about, you got to do it this way. And, so what are we talking about?
Follow Troy.
Yeah. Well, the vocals are just so good. Whether he's singing or he's screaming, they're very, very good. But even
and that's what we were talking about is amazingly, he can do that while plucking that guitar the way he does.
Yes.
Like, the style of guitar is hard enough on its own, but you put in singing at the same time.
Right.
Man.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Being a
and-
3-piece is amazing to me,
Right.
just in general.
And not all their songs are like this, but a lot of times like there's a lot of weird like time signatures that they're going really super fast and you know,
Then they'll
whatever.
slow it up for a second,
Yeah,
then
so I mean
jump
to
back
try
in.
to like do the vocals along with keeping the time on the guitar. Oh my goodness, man. Yeah, that's insane.
I think what we might call him is a unicorn.
Yes. Oh,
Or a freak of
easily.
nature of some
Easily.
sort.
Oh,
Because,
easily.
and not in a bad way at all, because he is amazing.
He is,
Like,
yeah.
there's no way I could do this. Most of my friends, I know some guys that can play guitar like, you know, scratching their back.
Right.
Like, it's not a problem for them at all. But to do the singing and play this type of riff at the same time, that's rough.
He's scratching his back, pooping, and making a sandwich all at the same time, people.
He can do it all.
He
right
can do
there.
it all right there, man, on stage, right in front of you. Yeah, but then not even him. It's like, I mean, the bass is really good, and,
Oh, yeah.
and the drums are so good too. So I mean,
Well, and the drums, he does keyboards too? Is that
the
what I
drummer.
hear? Like, I was looking on their past members list,
Mm-hmm.
and it has this line of keyboards going through there. I don't know if that's something,
I
a
don't
little
know
thing,
about
or
that.
I don't know. They got little keyboards here and there, and everybody
Yeah.
seems to do a little bit, but
Yeah, I don't know. I have to check into that.
I don't know. That was Wikipedia. Who knows what they're doing?
Yeah, that's true. The other thing too is that really draws me into them is like their creativeness, and I specifically mention. Now I can't remember what the song's called. Holy Tape on Doppelganger. Just like to think of things musically where they get to that part like kind of towards the end of the song where it's like they just bust into scales. Dun 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 dun. I just like I told Josh, I said, I mean, I can never think of doing something. I mean, something so simple. You know, I mean, you people who want to learn guitar, I mean, that's something that you learn, your scales or whatever. I don't think of, you know, something as creative as putting something like that into your song and changing it up. Just some of the things that they do is just so insane. And it's so cool to me. And that's what really draws me.
Very
into it.
avant-garde at times.
Yes, very avant-garde. Avant-garde. It's art, people. You don't understand. It's art.
That's what makes it fantastic.
Okay, so the other thing I was going to say to you when you said 3 members, they actually had 4 members at one time.
Right.
Now, that was when they were under the name 30 Years War. That was their original name. They only put out 2 or 3 EPs under that name. I think it was 2. The first EP, did you get to listen to that one?
I had a hard time finding these two.
Okay. Yeah, it was on YouTube.
Yeah, me and you two were having fights right now.
That's where at least I found it. It's okay. My biggest complaint is you can definitely tell it's a demo first, you know, EP, whatever, because it
They
sounds
did it
like
in their basement or in their
here's
garage.
a microphone, everybody gather around, you
Yeah,
know, the
yeah.
table here. We're just gonna play it around. Yeah, I mean at times you can hardly hear his vocals over the instruments
Right.
and everything like
It's
that.
like being live at a show.
Right.
And everything is on the sides as far as all the vocal speakers go. But, the band is all right here in front of you. So you hear drums.
right.
And then stacked right below that, you hear guitar. And then somewhere down at the bottom, you're hearing vocals.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. So,
which is cool live, but
what do you think of that name though? The 30 Years War.
it's pretty cool.
It's kind of a cool name.
Yeah. I mean,
I feel like we're kind of going on a trend when they go to Fall of Troy. It's kind of like okay, kind
we're
of
talking historical
talking
coolness.
historical stuff here. That's pretty cool. The other EP is called Live at the Paradox EP. Now this one was recorded live at the Paradox. Don't know if you got that from the EP title there or not, so I thought I explained it to you. No, I thought it was a pretty interesting idea. This is another one where I'm kind of like, man, that's very creative. Where, when you're a small band, obviously, yeah, you want to get your EPs out there, you want to get it online, you want people to listen to it, yada yada yada. But you can't just be 2-dimensional band. You need to be 3-dimensional. You need to have a good stage presence. You need to have a good live sound. And if you're trying to get people to come out to your shows, what better way than to record a live set and give it out to the people to say, hey, look, this is what you're missing right now.
Right.
Come hear us live. Come see my insane vocal and guitar skills all at the same time, So I almost feel like this is something that a lot of like local bands, small bands, they're on the up and coming, should think about doing. Obviously, not everybody can afford it, and I mean, I'm sure it's not easy to try to record a live set at all. I don't know, I've never done it. But I was really fascinated by the idea of a live EP early in their career. What do you think about that?
I like it a lot, actually. I wasn't able to find this specific one, but as far as like them working with other people, they seem to do that quite a lot, like on tour and stuff. One I found a whole lot of was Chon, and or however you pronounce that. I assume that's it.
I think that's how you say it. I could be wrong though.
I could be too.
I mean, look, I am the guy that said Perry Ferry, so I don't know if you should listen to me.
Well, I can't even remember the name of one of my favorite albums, so we're good.
Oh boy.
But anyway, so it seems like they work with that Chon quite a bit, and I really like the idea of it, and it really promotes both sides.
Right.
Like, I don't know when or where I found Chon for that matter, but I was telling you earlier before we started recording, somehow I was looking through my playlist and I go, I have their song Bubble Dream already on a playlist. When did I find that?
Oh, wow.
Because I was like, these guys are actually kind of cool. I'm going to look them up. And I look through and I go, sure enough, I actually have them already in a playlist.
Right.
So it gives me another chance to go look at Chon again and say, I'm going to give them a real good shot. Yeah. And look at something that's not from their very first album. Maybe look at something more recent.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, I just, my recommendation to any local bands or small upcoming bands is to think about this idea and just, if it's feasible for you or whatever, maybe try it. I mean, think about it. Nobody else is really doing it. If you want to stand out from the crowd and give the people something different. I mean,
standing out from the crowd gives you an edge.
Right. Well, and it's like the other thing too is, I mean, back then when they recorded their very first EP, I mean, that was early 2000s. Not everybody has the technology and the capability or the technology that we have now. I mean, dude, most of these people are just chilling in their bedrooms making, studio quality productions, just in their bedrooms. So nowadays, like if you start a band, you could probably easily make a pretty good sounding demo tape compared to, what some of the bands had to do back then. And so, being able to do something live, record that live early in your career and send that out, yeah, I think that would definitely stand you out from the crowd. So if I had a band, I'd do it. Yeah. So Eric, we talked a little bit about re-recordings earlier. Have you ever known a band that re-records songs over and over and over as much as Follow Troy?
Not to this extent.
Yeah, I think
I feel like they, I don't know if they go overboard.
Yeah,
but they're looking at the edge.
They're close. Yeah,
you can see the bottom from here.
Yeah,
it's man. I think I told you at one point, it feels like they have like just 8 songs.
Right.
And they just record them over and over.
You just look at it all, you're like, wow, they really only have 8 songs.
Because I was sitting here listening and, I was like, hey, that's a kind of cool song. But what is that? It sounds really familiar. What's that lyric?
Right.
Oh, wait a second, I've heard this.
Right.
And there's just that progression in my head. And it happens so often. I was like, I don't know what's going on here. But it's a good thing I like this song because I've heard it 8 times or something. That's a little exaggeration.
Right. I know what you mean, though. Yeah.
It just kind of felt like they only have so many songs, and then they just do it again and again and again
and again. Should have sat down. We should have looked through their whole discography and just like write down how many songs that they actually have. Just one time, not. Oh well, they re-recorded this so many times. No, I want to know how many songs in general do they have? Not
not
counting,
the re-recordings.
Yeah, don't count all the re-recordings.
Don't count all the okays.
So. One of those songs, yeah, oh my gosh. That is ridiculous, man. Why do you need all those different versions? There's like 4 of them.
1, 2, 3, 4. I'm showing on Spotify.
You have the original. You have, 2.0 or whatever?
You got number 2.
Number 2, that's like a remix of the original album. And then you have 3, which is
3.1.
Is it 3.1?
3.1 is another instrumental, and then 3.2.
Oh, that's what it is. It's okay. So it's the original. It's a remix of the original, and then it's an instrumental of the original, and then it's a remix of the instrumental original. Yeah, I mean, like, what was the point? Like seriously. I mean, if you wanted to do the original and then a remix, You know, okay, and we're gonna talk about the instrumental here in a little bit, but like, what's all these remixes of remixes? You know, and it's funny because we were talking about I Wrestled a Bear once the other day, and I didn't realize that they put out their first full length album. They put out 2 remix albums right after that of that very first album. Why? What was the point? You know, if you want to have a remix album, whatever, but it's like, why are you doing another one? Well, why? You know, it's kind of like, okay,
Wasn't
let's
good
get
enough the first time. Let's fix it. Hey, the second time was better. Let's try it one
well,
more
not
time.
even that. But it's like, it's the first one's called. First one is just they just call it a remix, and it's like these different DJs went through on each song and like kind of remix it or whatever. Yeah, and then the one after that it's called It's All Dubstep. So they took they didn't even do the whole full album. It's like 5 songs from the original, and they turned them into dubstep. Yeah. Anyway, I don't understand all the remix of remixes.
Take it or leave it. I think I'll leave that.
Yeah. So, okay. In terms of the re-recording, FC Premix, FC Remix, whatever, FCP Remix, whatever you want to say, is it's one of those songs. It was only recorded twice. So there's the original on their self-titled album, and then it came back again on Doppelganger. You've heard both, right?
Yes.
What do you think about those 2 versions? Because they're definitely different. One of them's very up-tempo and fast, which is Doppelganger's version, and then the other one's kind of like, not, I don't want to say like super slow down, but it's kind of chilled out. Almost makes me think of like a remix.
Right. I kind of like the Doppelganger version better.
Yeah.
I think that's where I stick usually.
I would end up, with Doppelganger.
Production quality just feels a little bit turned up.
Yeah.
I mean, every subsequent CD or every album they put out seems to turn up that quality just a little bit,
sure.
you know. But that's Doppelganger. It feels good on there. That's the version I first heard.
Right.
You know, that's probably the first song I ever heard by them.
Yeah.
And
more than likely.
I think that's everybody's first song.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you were into Fall of Troy, that was probably the first one you ever heard of. Okay, how do you say it?
Well, I kind of went back and forth on it, but FC Premix.
Okay. Because I don't even remember how I said it before. Me and Josh talked about it, but I wrote down FC Premix, I wrote down FCP Remix, and then I wrote down FCP REMIX. So yeah, I mean, I've heard, I don't think I've ever heard anybody say the last one, but I've heard people say, you know, one way or the other on FC Premix and then FCP Remix. It's kind of like Alexis on Fire.
Alex is
on fire. But I don't think I've ever heard of anybody call it Alex on Fire. But I remember when I first heard it, I was like, is that Alex on Fire? Or what is that? You know? Yeah.
The world may never know.
So we were talking about concepts on this last episode. The Phantom on the Horizon EP. It's a concept album. It's about a Spanish galleon meeting a ghost ship from another dimension. I can't even get through it without laughing about it, man. I mean, is this the weirdest concept album you've ever heard?
I think it's on par with the Titan EP from O Sleeper.
Ooh, okay.
Because that one's really weird too.
But the thing about that one is with Titan, it feels like, why are we doing a concept on an EP? Because it feels like the storyline is too big to be on an EP.
Especially for that particular one. Like,
yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's like, whoa, man. Because I remember describing each track, like the story behind each track to Josh, and he was just laughing the whole time thinking, what is happening?
Right.
It's an EP, people. What are we doing?
We're going overboard and down into the depths on that one.
What are your thoughts overall on the Phantom of the Horizon EP?
I mean, it's not bad.
Yeah,
I didn't hate it.
Did you get to listen to? So there's that one, and then before that they did Ghost Ship EP, and it was like a demo version of some of the songs off of Phantom of the Horizon, and it also had a demo of Macaulay Culkin that would end up on Doppelganger. Personally, I liked Ghost Ship demos better. Obviously, it doesn't have all the songs that end up on Phantom. But to me, that goes back to the rawness that I like. I like the rawness that they had in the instruments and even the vocals and everything. It's like, yeah, I would have been fine with you guys just releasing that. I don't know why you had to make some demos and then wait 3 or 4 years before you made it into an actual EP. I don't know. That's just me, though.
Well, this is another one where Spotify seems to be, doing the numbers weird. Because I'm showing the Phantom on the Horizon is 2008.
I think that's right. It was either
Is
08.
it?
I thought
Okay.
it was 08 or 09.
I was thinking it was before Doppelganger for some reason.
Oh, no. It was right
Okay.
after Doppelganger.
Okay.
Yeah, because they did... I think it was self-titled, and then they released the demos, Ghost Ship demos, and then they did
Okay, so that's what I'm
Doppelganger.
missing is the demos.
Yeah, which I think you can only find... I don't think those are on Spotify, right?
They're not.
Yeah,
no.
I think you can only
The
find
only
those on,
singles or demos I have are from 2020.
Oh, yeah.
Chain
Yeah.
Wallet, Nike Shoes, and We Are the Future.
Okay, yeah, that's so yeah, it would be on YouTube. That's where I found it. But yeah, then Doppelganger, and then Phantom, and then Unlikely Event. Speaking of in the Unlikely Event, you talked a little bit about production in terms of like his vocals or whatever. Overall of the album, production wise, what do you think?
Seems pretty clean.
Okay.
I mean-
do you like the album?
I mean, this one in particular just doesn't hit me as good as some of the others.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm not going to put it on the list of never listen to it ever again. But
I think that's on mine. It's just one of those where it's like
it just doesn't really hit like, yeah, that's it. That's
Yeah.
what I want.
Well, it just like it bothered me that like I don't know. I did not like his vocals on that album. I didn't like the way that they produced them and mixed them, and it just sounds like he's talking to me down a hallway, or whatever.
Yeah, I could
it's not
see
a good
that.
hallway. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of the production quality, and so it ruined it for me.
There was definitely there's a difference.
Yeah, there's definitely
Like
a
I said,
difference coming
they were
from
turning up the production, and they might have
Right.
turned it up a little too much for that one.
Yeah.
Like overproduced maybe a little bit.
Like
happens.
Manipulator is good, but I can tell that it's starting to go production wise, like the mixes of it and everything. I can tell it's starting to kind of go in a direction that ends up in the Unlikely Event. Like it's not hating on Manipulator because I love Manipulator. It's a good one, but yeah, this is just one where I was just like, ugh, I just can't wait for this album to be over. And I made the comment to Josh that said, and of course, the one album that I don't like from Fall of Troy is the longest at like 50 minutes, almost an hour. I'm like, of course it is. Why wouldn't it be?
Oh yes.
Okay, so we were just talking about it. Okay, number 3.2 is the instrumentals, or 3.1 instrumentals, either one. We mentioned at the beginning of this episode, you and I are both fans of, bands like Strawberry Girls. That's, an instrumental band. What do you think about this instrumental version of OK?
It's actually not all that bad. Like the first time I went through, I kind of picked a few and kind of popped in on a couple, listened, and I was like, And OK was so overwhelming since there was 4 of them.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with OK.
Yes.
It's just melting my poor little brain.
Right.
So, yeah, going back and actually listening specifically to the instrumentals, they're kind of good. I mean, I like them. I've always liked their instrumental section.
Yeah.
I really do.
I would like to see this band sit down and say, we're going to make an instrumental album. We're going to write a new album and it's going to be instrumental. I think they would be really good at that. I was not a fan of this only because I've already heard OK, and so it's like once you've heard the vocals in OK, you go back and you listen to the instrumentals, and it's like it feels empty. It feels like it's missing something. Well, it's missing the vocals.
Right.
It's like basically they just took the production, just took the vocals out of the mix,
Which was nothing to do. Click, click, boom.
Yeah, exactly. Click, click, boom.
Yep.
POD. So
Got a little bit of everything for everybody.
That was good. That was a good one. Yeah, so I don't know. It was, don't hate it, but it was just kind
And
of.
I've seen other bands do it.
Yeah.
This one felt better than the other ones I've heard.
Okay.
I think.
What's some examples?
I was trying to look for it earlier and I couldn't find it. I think the name of the band is Of Fact and Fiction, maybe.
Okay.
Not a real big band. I definitely got one of them on my, instrumental playlist that I keep.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this, like I said, if that's the band, I'm not 100% sure on that one, but they actually released a full length album, and then they did the same thing, only instrumental.
Okay.
And they did it they had like 3 different albums when I looked them up, and all 3 albums were that way. So they had 6 total, like on Spotify.
So for each one, they would end up doing an instrumental with it.
Yes.
Now, let me ask you this, though. Could you tell, did it sound like they just, on the instrumentals, that they just went into the mix and took the vocals out? Okay.
Oh, yeah. You could tell there was these flat spots in the music where there's supposed to be something.
Well, and see, at that point, I'm kind of like, okay, if you're going to do that, like in terms of Follow Troy, it's like, that's where I feel like you can do some remixes. You can change up the sound, maybe of your instruments just a little bit in the production or whatever. Yeah. Besides,
What I like about their instrumentals, though,
go ahead.
there's not a lot of like flat spots in their music. Generally speaking, anyway.
But that's the
But
thing
when
about
you get
it.
into different types, like A Fact and Fiction, or whatever the name of that band was,
Yeah.
they kind of tone it down so that the vocals can be kind of the star.
Mm-hmm.
So when you release a version of it that doesn't have the vocals, now you don't have a star,
Yeah.
and you got this kind
Feels
of
like a bunch of supporting cast.
I don't know, bar chords and just gung 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 gung.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool, I guess, but there's not a lot going for 30 seconds. I think I'll skip on.
See, that's how Meddler is kind of, but it's better than that. I mean, it's not all just supporting cast. I mean, it's they're out there, they know what they're doing in terms of, we are this instrumental band, so we're gonna play that way.
Right.
But they are more kind of on the heavy side of, like, there are some kind of breakdowns and stuff like that.
Right, and in breakdown, that if as long as you got rise and fall and
For sure,
some action going on
there's
in the music,
there's action,
like that. Just like I said, I don't know if flat spot's the right word even, but it's like it cut and paste and just take that whole section out of there, and now you're missing something. Like you said, especially if you listen to OK first, and you're going,
I'm missing it.
I'm missing the voice.
Why am I not just listening to the original?
Right.
Yeah.
But I always did like their instrumental section, generally speaking.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So I think, I kind of like it. So if you like something like Strawberry Girls, you like Chon, or, some of those ones we've mentioned already that kind of have that a little bit math rocky type sound to them anyway, this is a good one for you.
Okay. So we both agree on Follow Troy. We would like to see them sit down and say, hey, we're going to write an instrumental album.
I think so.
Is there any other bands? I know this wasn't on the list, but is there any other bands that you can think of that come to mind that you'd be like, I think they would do really good to have an instrumental? One that I can think of is I wouldn't mind seeing Between the Buried and Me do one. That'd be kind of an interesting one. There was another
honestly
one
kind of keeping in this kind of stylistic
Yeah,
type
go
thing
for
would be like Dance Gavin Dance.
Okay.
Their instrumental section has always been
Well,
fantastic to me.
Right. And where that comes from is the guitarist that's now in Strawberry Girls
Yes.
was from Dance Gavin Dance.
Yes.
So I mean that definitely helps for sure.
That does.
Yeah.
But he did change when he moved over a little
for sure.
bit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, almost I would like something like that too. I mean, keeping in that same style, I like that a lot. They make for good instrumentals.
Yeah.
So
There was another band, but I can't remember. I was thinking about it the other day, and I can't remember who the other band was. But man, I just really think like Follow Troy would knock that out of the park.
like if they actually sat down and tried, I think so
Yes.
too.
Oh, easily. Yeah. I mean, obviously,
This is
you
good,
have
But it's
ideas for
built
like
for lyrics to
right
go behind it.
You have ideas for like concept albums, obviously, i.e., Phantom on the Horizon. So it's like challenge yourself now, because we talked about it before. I mean, that's not an easy thing to do, to tell a story without vocals, to tell a story with just your music, I mean, that's tough for sure.
I mean, you get back to original, like the music you would have to hear way back in the day, like I don't know, Beethoven or something.
Right.
He had a story within his music.
Right.
You go back to other classicals, like I think we've probably talked about it before, maybe not on record now, but the flight of the bumblebee.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that I mean, there is a story there. You can feel that bumblebee running around from flower to flower, and the William Tell Overture is another one. You can feel the horse riding.
Right.
Dun, 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 dun. You know, it's that feeling. There's a story there, and you can see it play out in your brain.
You had to say horses, and you had to reference that because
Now that one will be in your head for 3 days.
no, because it made me think of Protest the Hero, their song Blood Meat off of Fortress, the very first song. It's talking the song is about Genghis Khan.
Oh.
And there's a line towards kind of the back end of the song, where it says talking about it says something about putting your ear to the ground and hear the sound. Oh shoot, I'm gonna butcher this. Let me look it up real quick because I know I will. But it's one of those where it's like, dude, I can see the horses like galloping into war here, man.
They paint your Edgar Allan Poe picture.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so it says, holding near to the ground to hear the sound of clamoring and horses stammering as their gallop meets the earth. So it's like every time I hear that, dude, especially like with the instruments going, because they kind of chug it at one point. So it's like you almost like can hear like the hooves pounding the earth.
The hoof
just,
beating
like,
through
just
the earth
kinda,
as
like,
it moves towards.
Yeah, dude. So I was like, oh, dude, that is such a sick line right there. So I always love when that line comes into play. But yeah, like I said, there was another band I was thinking of earlier in the week when I thought of, man, Fall of Troy would be a really good one if they would just were going to write instrumental, but I can't remember what the other one was besides Between the Buried and Me. So
When they're avant-garde enough anyway, that would work.
oh
really
yeah,
well.
and I started thinking, I was like, I don't think they have, but I could be wrong.
Not completely anyway. That I can remember.
Okay,
But
I was trying to think.
Like
of,
I said,
did
they kind of fell off my radar after Colors.
Yeah.
Just because my taste kind of changed at the time.
No, I hear you. Yeah,
I mean, that happens.
yeah,
But I've kind of gone back to them a little.
yeah. Definitely go check out Colors too, man. You need to check that one out again.
There's a
Sorry, I forgot
reoccurring
you
thread
already
here.
did. Yes, Colors 2. More colors than the first time. Okay, so you didn't get to listen to the very first EP when they were under 30 Years War. So
I did find one song from that.
Okay.
I did remember.
Okay.
And I actually wrote myself a note. Look at me go.
Okay.
It was it was very raw, but I mean, I will say that's better than it being over processed.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like where we got, you're talking about throwing your voice down a hallway.
Yeah.
It's almost like you start here and you end there.
Mm-hmm.
Can we stay in the middle? Someone,
Right.
please.
Yeah. So, did you know that their newest album, 2020's, I'm going to mess this one up. I already know it. Muckle to Earth. It's, well, I don't even remember how many songs now. 6, maybe. It's the first 5 to 6 songs are all re-recorded from that original EP. Now, me and Josh have had this discussion before. You and I have had this discussion before. I don't want to say that I'm, and it's kind of, I feel like it's kind of changing a little bit, but I don't want to say I'm totally against bands re-recording albums for, anniversaries and stuff like that. I always go into that stuff skeptical. This one, I was actually pretty interested to hear what it sounded like because of the production quality being so terrible back, when they first released it. I mean, you had to do what you had to do. And I was like pleasantly surprised how good this ended up sounding in 2020. It really gave me like nostalgia vibes, and not even because like, oh, I listened to that back in the day, so hearing this now again, update. Not even that. It's just like the lyric. I mean, you can tell it's like he wrote these songs musically and lyrically when he was younger, and so that's where the nostalgia came from. So I was kind of interested to hear what your thoughts were on that album, specifically the ones that were re-recorded.
that's probably what did it for me. But
Okay.
specifically, that album is probably a close second as far as my favorite albums go from them.
Doppelganger number 1.
Yes, absolutely.
No, I
That's not even
couldn't
a hard
remember if
fight, in
that's
my
what you said
opinion.
earlier or not.
But yeah, I'm honestly, however you say this, Mulkeel Turth.
Yeah, something like that.
Yep, we'll go
Monkey
with that.
Earth.
Monkey Earth. But anyway, so it's actually a really good album in general. The first track off that album made it onto my top 3 list, though.
Okay.
A tribute to Orville Wilcox.
Yeah, name some of those songs off real quick.
So you got Chain Wallet, Nike Shoes,
Yeah.
Tears of Green-Eyed Angels, Mirrors Are More Fun Than Television. That's actually the only one I found on YouTube, the original
Yeah.
version of it. And I definitely like this version a little better, just production quality.
Right. Oh,
And, you know, I can definitely tell they've grown up.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. For sure.
They're not little boys in the garage anymore banging on drums.
No.
I mean, there's I don't know what it is. It's a grown up feeling, and I like
Yeah.
it. But at the same time, I do respect the old version. Like, yeah, you know, that's where they started. That's how
Right.
they got found.
Right.
But anyway, after that, there's The Day the Strength Failed Men and Knife Fight at the Mormon Church.
Yes.
I think those are the ones that were
I think that's
re-recorded.
it. Because what's after that one?
Counting Sheep.
Yeah. Okay. That's where it starts.
Yeah.
So there's like what 3 songs that are original.
4.
4. Okay. Yeah. So those
And
those
going
first
from
ones are,
all those first songs are all a tribute to Orville Wilcox is the longest or the shortest name, and then you go to Counting Sheep.
Yeah, that's true. You can tell
All
where
those
it's
other
like,
names are
okay,
like, what are we
these
talking
are
about?
2020 songs here. Yeah. It's an interesting idea for them to do that, which I'm guessing that they probably recognize, hey, this is, production was not good.
And
Let's
they're hard to
update
find.
it. And they're hard to find.
They're extremely
Very
hard to find. I was only
obviously.
able to find the one.
Obviously, because Eric struggled to find it.
I found one somehow, but
Yeah. That's one thing I don't like about Spotify is like they don't give you like some of the early stuff,
Yeah.
And I want to hear the early stuff.
they don't pay scale lock you out of things.
Yeah.
That's one
true.
thing I switched away from another for, but
Well, yeah.
I digress.
We won't even get into that one unless you want to sponsor us.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about you. No. Okay, cool. So you've already named off well, at least your top 2 favorite.
Yes.
From Fall of Troy. What's your third?
If I had to pick.
If you had to pick your third,
Let's
didn't
see
know if you
here.
had. I mean, I don't know if you.
I mean,
knew off the top
third
of
would
your
probably
head.
be Manipulator if we're talking top albums,
Okay. Yeah.
I do like their earlier sound quite a bit.
Right.
And I guess that early, songwriting too.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at that early song, The Mirrors Are More Fun.
Mm-hmm.
And like the lyrics, I mean, they're pretty good lyrics and everything, but there's people down in the comment section like, dude, these lyrics saved me. These lyrics, like, wow, I'm like, it's good, but I mean, I didn't feel like it was like, what was that called? There was this album that a bunch of bands put out here a while back, Songs That Saved Me. I don't know if you heard that.
No.
I think it was 2019, 2020, something like that. And it's,
That sounds like a COVID album.
it probably was, but it was very nostalgic. They took a bunch of songs from like when we were little angsty teenagers and, put them on this album. And it was pretty cool. And
Was it re-recorded or just?
I think they were just
originals?
original
Okay.
versions, but
So basically,
most part.
and now that's what I call music.
yeah, I think that's kind of what they did from my understanding.
Songs that saved my life, Volume 20.
Yeah. But anyway, it was kind of a cool idea, and I think that's what a lot of people were saying about even that song right there.
Okay.
And I mean, they lyrically are pretty interesting.
Good, man.
So
So you
Anyway.
just talk about lyrics. Is there any specific lyrics that jump out to you?
oh man, let's see. I think this one's from where did it go? Oh, Act 1, Scene 1. The whole song could be a quote, but it actually is kind of hard to pick just one out of some of their songs
Right.
because you start to looking at them like, man, that whole, the whole chorus, like, wow, yes.
Right.
But from there, I picked Jaded Masquerade, No Names, Contradicting Fates, It's All the Same, I'm Telling You the Truth.
Telling you the truth, I swear.
It's my angsty teenager inside. It makes me happy.
Right, exactly. Yes.
And then from FC Premix, My mind is running out of gas. Just recap, relapse.
My body jumping. Yep. Cool.
And if we're going to talk riffs, that right there.
Yeah.
I love that riff. Oh, man.
I mean, just like that. I mean, obviously, he's got, a pedal going on that with the delay and some reverb and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Hearing from the first time, too, I was kind of trying to do it back to back, trying to see what was the big difference.
Oh, in the two versions?
Yeah. So the first one I heard didn't have quite as much of that delay going on.
Right,
it was
yes.
more echoey than delay. So, I mean, there's a little difference there. That's probably why I like that better. But
yeah,
it
just makes it sound like there's 3 guitars going on.
And that is so cool in general.
Yeah.
I love that sound. But, oh yeah, absolutely. And some top songs for me. Number 3, as we talked about.
Number 3.
A tribute to Orville Wilcox.
Okay.
I do like that song quite a bit.
Okay.
Act 1, Scene 1, which we just quoted.
Okay.
And then, The Invenerable.
I mean, we already know what it's going to
Yeah,
be. Come on,
it's
man.
FC Premix.
What? That's not the one I was thinking of.
Whoops. We shocked the man.
Wow, yeah. Cool. Well, you got any final comments on Follow Troy?
I went into this one not knowing if I'd like them.
Really? Okay. He was
So,
skeptical.
I was definitely skeptical on them. Like, I was like, I would have liked them back in high school just because, I was hearing their sound. I was like,
Yeah. It's
But
like a high school band, man.
it really felt like a high school band, like something I would have listened to like really good back then.
Yeah.
But, you just couldn't convince me to listen to them.
Just couldn't, man. It was one of those bands.
I was a little hard-headed.
Like, Norma Jean and The Chariot and Oh Sleeper and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were some bands we both liked. I mean, Silverstein was our jam together back in the day.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Maylene.
Yep. Yeah.
I jumped on that train hard.
Yep, for sure. I always think of Kara talking about one of her friends heard Norma Jean. One of her friends from high school heard Norma Jean. And it was just like, what is this? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Norma Jean is the greatest band ever.
They're the GOAT.
They're the GOAT, man. They are the GOAT. Your friend is trash. Yeah.
Just get a new one.
I remember she was a big fan of Ides of March.
Yes.
Because when I was listening to Discovering the Waterfront several episodes ago on the History of the Chorus podcast, I was like, oh, shoot, Kara. This used to be Kara's jam, so I sent that to her. She was like, oh, memories.
High school.
You know how she is. Yeah. So, cool. Alrighty, man. Well, that is Follow Troy from Mukilteo, Washington. All right, here we go. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at @IsSurvivedByPro. Are you pointing at something or what?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you were trying to get my attention. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at @IsSurvivedByPro for news and the latest episode postings, not just on the show, but our other shows as well. You have the History of the Chorus podcast with me and Josh. You also have the Red Right Hand podcast, which covers all 6 seasons of the Peaky Blinders. You have the Throne of the Dragon podcast, which so far has covered season 1 of House of the Dragon, soon to be season 2, and we are currently on our Aegon the Conqueror series. So go check out all 3 of those shows and continue to listen to this one as well. Also, while you're on Twitter, make sure to follow my co-host, Josh, at Joshua Lynn Gary. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review and write us a comment on whatever podcast service you're using. And if you want to listen to us and see our smiling faces, head over to our YouTube page. Just search Is Survived By Productions, and that'll have every episode of all of our shows. Subscribe to the channel and thumbs up the video. All right.
Because we love you.
We love you. We love you long time. Yep, that's going to do it. I think the next band that we're going to talk about is Vanda.
It is.
So that'll be an interesting one. I think after that is He Is Legend, because you mentioned that just a little bit ago. So I believe that's the next one, right?
It is.
So is that what your notes say?
That is what they
Vanna,
dictate.
He Is Legend, Touche Amore, Cancer Bats, Alexis on Fire, so on and so forth. So, we will see you in that next episode. We sit down and talk about the band from Boston, Massachusetts, Vanna. We'll see you then.